Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau all had interesting ideologies that shaped not only our government as a whole, but many others. In fact, Locke's work influenced both capitalism and socialism. There's a lot on this chart, and even more not on it. So let's begin with Thomas Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes lived through a civil war, and that heavily influenced his work. He looked at the war and saw its ceaseless destruction, and decided that the civil war should be avoided at all costs. Because of this, he saw government as a necessary thing to prevent society from falling apart. Any government that isn't strong enough or quick enough can't prevent it. Given Hobbes' perspective, the state of nature is terrifying to him. The state of nature is a time before government. Because of this, it is essentially a war where everyone is against everyone. There are no communications or culture. Everyone is miserable, and life is nasty, brutal, and short. However, in this state of nature, all humans have two things in common: their natural rights and their natural laws, which gets them out of the state of nature. Natural rights are the right to survival and all the rights that come with it, like the right to food, the right to shelter, the right to medical supplies, and the right to not fall down 17 flights of stairs. Natural laws are the human yearning for peace and what comes with it, like compassion and empathy. A common conception people have, or about as common of a conception people can have about long-dead philosophers, is that Hobbes is a shill for authority and hated the idea of rebellion. This is mostly true. Hobbes did believe in a unicameral absolute government, but he also believed in some cases people should rebel if it harms their lives or honor. This theme of rebellion would go mostly unexplored until John Locke, who's next up. John Locke is by far the most influential philosopher on this list, and stands out compared to Hobbes and Rousseau. Of all the philosophers, Locke also had the most optimistic idea of what the state of nature was like. He believed that in the state of nature, people were equal, and generally pretty nice to each other, even forming relationships. While the natural rights and laws are a bit different, they lead to the same conclusion: government. In Locke's view, the natural rights are more specific, being a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. The natural law is that no one can violate people's right to survival, which is pretty much the right of nature in Hobbes' work, making the distinction between the right and law of nature even more confusing. But bear with me, okay? Nevertheless, in this state of nature, there are a few outliers who violate the laws of nature, and these are either criminals or people trying to stop criminals by taking justice into their own hands. Meanwhile, because of people sharing with each other, a society based around agriculture starts to form, which leads to currency, causing a government to be created with the purpose of monitoring currency. Despite the fact that government seems like a better option in a state of nature, there are a few downsides and times when it is worse. Civilians in a government essentially agree that a government can execute the law of nature against them in cases when they are wrong. In other words, in a government, you are not free from moral judgment and have to follow the rules. Not only that, but some governments violate people's natural rights against their consent, making them illegitimate. In the case of an illegitimate government, people can and should rebel. Locke also advocated for separation of church and state and generally opposed African American slavery. Out of the three, Jean-Jacques Rousseau is the person I'd be most likely to challenge to a duel if I got sent back in time. He has many interesting ideas about human nature, but he also has many weird philosophies that don't stand the test of time. Rousseau's idea of the state of nature is that while there isn't much fighting, people aren't really cooperative or friends. Everyone only acts in self-interest, with not that much concern for other people. Rousseau's version of the rights and laws of nature isn't by name, but similarities can be drawn. As for the right of nature, he states that every human wants to stay alive and be compassionate. And as for the law of nature, he discusses three aspects of personality that allow them to leave the state of nature. The three are pitié, or compassion, amour de soi, or self-love, and amour propre, or vanity, the most important and also the only negative trait. The competition because of amour propre leads to aggression and injustice, but also leads to rationality and social awareness. Like Hobbes, Rousseau believes people form government out of fear, and like Locke, he believes they form an agricultural society turned capitalist one. After that, however, he has a few beliefs that diverge. He points that due to more prepared upper class have too much social and political power, because why would they want to give up power to the people they think are lesser than them? They should be avoided at all costs, and Rousseau is a better option, following the general will. In the general will, everyone has equal power to decide policies in government, no representatives or anything. Everyone faces equal consequences, even if they disagree with the public's decision. Another one of Rousseau's ideas that are influential to this is his idea of the social contract, similar to Locke's idea that people have to give up their freedom for morality when they join a government. Rousseau argues that people in the government exchange their natural freedoms, like being able to have unlimited resources, for their civil freedoms, like feeling like a moral contributing member of society, as well as extra protections. Earlier, I mentioned some of the aspects of Rousseau's beliefs that didn't age well. An example of one of these is his idea of civil religion. While Locke only believed that atheists couldn't be trusted with oaths, Rousseau takes it to a different level. His idea of a civil religion is that if you don't believe in a god and a good and bad afterlife, as well as the idea that the right of nature is divine, you should be exiled from society. Those were the philosophies of Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau. Many were more thought-provoking than others, but they all have helped in developing ideas to where we are now.